Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today I'm sharing with you a Star Sapphire custom statue that made from the Sideshow Collectibles Jean Grey Premium format. Now, as you can see, this one is really done up pretty well. We really went all out with this. The person I worked with was great to work with. We went back and forth with some ideas. He really wanted to take it to a new level. So you can see that Jean Grey is not on her original base. This is a custom base we made from scratch, but with some other parts from another item. We put the Jean body and the Star Sapphire onto this base, and then we also made a custom head bust display stand for the second head, because this is based off the animated movie version with Star Sapphire, but we also did the extra head that Jean Grey came with more of like the comic accurate artwork, so I'll kind of go over all that and everything. So we'll put the head base aside. We'll come back to this in a second though, and we'll kind of just go over the statue. Paint wise, pretty straightforward as you can see, but custom wise, definitely a lot of work done. So with the Jean head on this head, this is I forget which head is actually had the flames on it. I think it's this one, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be the other one. But whatever, we took the flames off, and basically I had to sculpt the head gear on her, and then we kind of blended out the hair. Now, the hair is very pretty simplified, because if you actually look at her in the animated movie her hair is pretty simple. It's not like crazy or anything like that. So kind of just put the mask there and just kind of flowed it back with the hair. And it worked out pretty well. Really well. I took a little bit to kind of get in there and really work it. I had to do like a lot of like, you know, sanding to get this curve and everything there. But it was a little tricky. As far as her chest goes, we had to, you know, work out the chest on her a bit. That chest from Jean Grey, it was covered. She didn't have really, you know, basically cleavage. And so what I had to do is I had to kind of chop that out and reset the breast, sort of like the animated movie. He wasn't opposed to actually making the breast a little bit bigger, which was fine with me. But we had to sort of kind of work out the anatomy a little bit. I had to create a belly button because of the skin and everything, and we went from there. Now with Jean's shoulder pads, we utilized those shoulder pads because in the animated movie she does have shoulder pads. So we utilized them a bit, and basically once we got them tweaked out, I had to sort of tweak them a bit to really work them to make it work a little bit. You can kind of see from the back a little bit more. So I just kind of had to sort of tweak those shoulder pads and make it work, because her shoulder pads didn't come down as far, so I had to sort of like build them and sort of like line them up and sand them and stuff like that. Now Jean's she had this like she has this little thing on her arm here and here, so I utilized that as the top part of her gloves, and I kind of reworked the gloves going down there, and I gave her elbow pads. And the hands are removable because, for one, there's no way you could really have these type of hands in the box without them probably snapping. So and the problem was I would have liked if her arms were more like the gloves were more down here, I would have cut the arms off and made one long one. But since they were up here so high, I never would have really been able to cut this and keep this angle and make them look right without kind of making them like kind of bent or something. So I decided to just keep it with the hands, and basically there wasn't really a lot of meat for the hands though, so that was a little bit of a problem. But well, it worked out pretty well where these are removable. So what I did is I had to sort of sand them down. The paint sort of making it stick a bit. Sort of had to like sand them down and create it like a little bit like of a notch. So when they go in there, it looks like it's part of the outfit with like this notch in there. And that's what I had to do. Sometimes with customs you can only go so far. You can't really force things. You know, if the gloves were here, I probably would have cut it and kept the arm and hands together, but since they're all the way up here and next to these shoulder pads, it was just too much of a risk for me to never make this lined up again. So I opted just to keep the hands that were removable from Jean and kind of like chop them down. You can kind of see over here too as well. We had to sort of do our best to sand this down as much as possible with keeping the piece in there and stuff. I would have normally liked to have put like a metal rod with a magnet, but I was just going to risk too much of losing this curve and everything working right, so I decided just to opt to go with that route. So that's what we did there. Now, Of course, we always got to do a booty shot for you guys. Now, when I first drew her underwear, or her outfit, I guess you can say, I was following the animated movie. The animated movie, which I call Granny Panties, they came up around back over here. And the client was like, I'm not really a fan of that. So I said, well, you want to go with a leotard? Or do you want to go with a thong? So I had to show him with drawings. Like, this is more of like a leotard swimsuit lineup. This is kind of what you see in like sportswear swimsuits. Whereas like a thong would be like how they draw like, you know, Psylocke these days. Or statues where they kind of like put that really crazy thong on her. So he wanted to go more with this. He didn't want the granny panties, but he didn't want it like, you know, too risque. So we kind of went with that look there. And that's kind of what we did. And I had a lot of piping around her outfit to sort of follow the comic book animated movie. But except the back, though, was a little bit like, we followed the back of it, but we had to sort of come up with a little bit of extra. So we kind of did some drawings and stuff, and we came up with piping back there. So that's kind of what we came up with that. Now, as far as her legs go, what we had to do is sort of follow the you know, animated movie legs and stuff. So I had to like sand it down and then rebuild it and sand it and rebuild it and really work it all out. So it was a little tricky to really get it in there, but we did keep like the knee pads and the wrinkles and everything at the bottom of Jean's feet because we figured that's fine. We can kind of leave it like that, and it worked out pretty well. Now, as far as the base, this is just a generic casted up round base that I made, and what I did is I sculpted like rocks, like the flames just coming up around the rocks and stuff, and just kind of like a lot of the colors that I added in this clear resin is in the rocks and stuff. Now, these clear resin pieces are from another statue. I don't remember the statue. I really don't even care what the statue was. He sent me a big box, and it was like some purple lady mixed in with some flames, and it was all broken and smashed. I guess he got the statue, or he either bought it broken, or it was part of his collection. It was broken, and he wanted to utilize all those clear stuff for the space. And I said we could definitely do it. And at first I thought maybe I could only get one piece on there. I think it was like maybe this piece and this piece. But what I did is I said, you know what? He's been so good to work with from the beginning as I was working on the base. I said, let's take it a step further. This piece here was from the statue, so what I did is I broke it. I threw it on the ground and broke it. And it broke in a way where I said I can utilize it for the base, but I had to sort of sand it down and buff it up. And it was a little bit tricky to, you know, buff up this area, but I did the best I could. And then I stripped down what was painted on it. And then after it was stripped down, I added rods down in here that connect into the base. And then what I did is I clear coated it with some, I forgot the colors I had. It was that, I think, auto car paint stuff I have. But I did it very, very lightly up here, so it keeps that translucent color. But I did it very heavy at the bottom, so you don't see those metal rods that were sticking there. I figured that's the only way I could really do it. And it's got this interference blue in it, so when you turn her, the stuff sort of glows. So that pretty much worked out pretty well. As far as paint-wise, we had to mix up some pearls. So he wanted it like a pearlized, you know, outfit, like to sort of represent the animated movie. But he wanted to do something a little bit different. You may not be able to see it in camera, but in person, we flattened down the pearlized outfit. But the boots, the shoulder pads, the mask, and the gloves are regular pearl with a little bit of a hint of gloss on it. I did a little bit of gloss on there to give it a little bit more shine. Whereas this here is a more flat. In person, you can see it. Now, the star on the stomach was a little bit tricky. I knew I was never going to be able to, you know, kind of etch that in. There was no way that was going to be etched in. You know, because that was pure polystone right there. I didn't put any A's or anything there. So I said, I got an idea. I'm going to see if it works. So I remembered a while back on the live stream, I was painting up that LSB domino statue, and she had this texture, and I had this fabric. And somebody on stream said, "Hey, why don't you use like the 3M spray bottle you have and give it like a tackiness so you could put it on the statue, spray it, and then you pull it off, and you really don't leave any residue if you let it dry a little bit." And I said, you know what, I'm going to try that with the piece of paper that I cut. So we went back and forth, and we kind of came up with the perfect pattern and scale, because I did it in Illustrator, and I did a bunch of designs, and then finally he said this was the one he wanted. So what I did is I cut out the piece of paper, I sprayed it with the 3M like tacky stuff that I kind of use for like, whenever I like do labels and stuff, I want to stick the label on the box and stuff just to make it stick a little bit better, and then put tape over it. I said, all right, let me do it with the 3M stuff, and I put it on there, and I kind of lined it up the best I could, and I sprayed it like, a masking tool, and then after I pulled it off, there was a little tiny residue of that glue, but after, I did a really good sealing of the skin tone and everything, and I wiped it off with my finger, and it came off, and I did a perfect star on it, so that worked out great. It was a good little, trial and error, and it worked out. So that's pretty much as far as the skin tone goes. That is pretty much some new skins that I kind of been messing with and everything. Now, we didn't do too crazy of skin facial stuff on her. Not really heavy eyeshadow or anything. We just did basically sort of a natural lips on her. Glossed it up at the end, and basically I put in eye decals. I think these are the Evolution X decals from Frank that I've been showing off on my stream. So I used those eye decals, but the problem is they weren't pink. So I had to go back in there with some paint and do it. The only problem with these Jean Grey eyes is they're very, very narrow. So if I was to put bigger eye decals on there and you cut it, it would look like she's sleeping. Whereas these kind of fit in scale. So I did that. So that's pretty much that stuff. So we'll kind of get on to the head base, and we'll kind of go over this head here as well. So this is the more of the comic accurate head, I guess you can say. And as you can kind of see, the hair is a little bit different, but still kind of the same. Now, I was a little bit scared about doing this one because he really wanted to do this crown, and I was like, oh man, how am I going to do this? And I had to kind of think about it. So when I started working on it, what I decided to do is I had a metal rod, brass rod, and I started sculpting the hair. And then as I sculpted the hair, I took that metal brass rod and I sort of squeezed it onto the hair, and I let it cure. And then from there, I sort of built out with eaves on top of that, and it worked out good because it would be very hard to put that metal rod there and then sort of squeeze out that hair underneath of it and stuff. So I figured, let me sculpt the hair and squeeze it on first and then clean it up, and it worked out pretty well. Then I was like, how the hell am I going to do these pieces here? So what I did is, I have a lot of eaves that is kind of like dried up, and I roll it out flat. So what I did is I kind of drew it with my pencil, and I sort of kind of created a pattern over here, and I put the two pieces together, and I sanded them down, so this way when I flip this one over here and flip that one over there at work, I glued those on. And then I started doing all the eaves work with the, the mask going around her eyebrows and around there, and it worked out pretty well. So I'm actually really happy with the way this, and I can't really tell which head I like more. Do I like the, this head, or do I like this head? It's kind of like, it goes back and forth. And this one, he wanted a little bit more eyeshadow, and he wanted more of the lips to be heavier lips like the outfit. So that's kind of what I did. So you can kind of see how, I did the mask, and I got the point over here, and it kind of like went down around there, and you kind of see it well over there. So that worked out pretty well. Now, you may be saying, how the hell did I get the bust the same exact as a statue? Because basically what I told him, I said, look, if you want a head base, I can sculpt from scratch, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to be a lot of time, and I don't know how well it's going to come out, and I don't think I will be able to get it this high and everything. I said, since we customized the body already, and it's almost pretty much different from the Jean Grey, and we're not going to be making, 30 castings of this, it's just a one-of-a-kind statue. If you want to go with the cheaper route, I said, I'm okay with actually making a mold of the body, a throwaway mold, and then making one copy, one off. I made 2 copies. I made one, though, just to sort of, because every time you make a copy of the body with the first mold, the resin usually that comes out of all kind of funky. So then after that, I pulled that one out and I made another copy. And by then, the mold was a 1-part mold anyway, and it kind of tore, so I really don't even think I could use it again anyway. So we made one bust on it. So because I told him, I said, if you want to purchase the mold, it's cheaper, we'll do it. And what I did is I cast it up pretty high because I didn't know where we were going to cut it. But after I made the mold, he really liked it that we had it all the way down where it's almost like a really good head display stand. Plus, this head is pretty heavy too, so I had to really put a lot of weight down in here. And that's kind of what we did. Now, I told him, I said, The arms are going to be a little difficult, and it would kind of look weird if we had these little black nubs coming out, as you can kind of see on the statue, like, you know, those little arm pieces. I said, because I made the mold, and I cut it off here and here. I didn't really know how to really make the mold. I actually had 2 pieces of extra flat mold, and I pushed them together, and that's kind of like a whole nother long story. I'm not even going to get into it, but a lot of resin kind of leaked out, but I said it would kind of look weird with that, so I said let me design it in a way where it's kind of like, it's a head display stand, you can see it's Star Sapphire, but we won't have the black under there. So what I did is I dremeled out the underneath the arm pieces that were sticking out, and I kind of fine-tuned it and everything, so we didn't do all that. And it worked out pretty well. Sadly, though, I know it's there. He might not be able to see it when he's in person, but because it was a throwaway mold and we didn't really make a huge, it would have taken a lot more mold to do it, so we didn't really go too crazy. When I did make the mold and I had to squeeze it and everything, we did have a little bit of the legs sort of squeezed together compared to the legs from there. And plus the way I made the mold, it's a no-lesser. But after me going there with some resin and Aves and chopping it up and everything, it worked out pretty well. And then I made a little bit of a base there. So you can see it holds both heads pretty well. It's pretty much the same exact statue. And it works out pretty well. I mean, I'm really, really happy with the way this came out. So, you know, he can actually have these both on display. He can change them up, or, you know, if he wants to, he can swap the heads every once in a while, or if he likes this head on that one more, he can do that. So, it came out pretty well. I'm really happy with this. And as I always tell people, you know, for your Holy Grails, if you want to go ahead and make a Holy Grail, you go this route and you can take it to another level. You know, you can make, if it comes with 2 heads and you want to do 2 heads, you can make an extra head base with it. If you have some statues that you really like the parts that are broken, you can utilize those parts on the statue. You can do a lot of stuff with the items. It just depends on how far you go. And I'm actually starting to get a lot more people now lately, I guess because of economy. People are running out of room with stuff. And I think people are starting to like really go, you know what, I want to make my Holy Grail. I don't want to have like, you know, 30 statues of stuff I kind of like, but I don't love the characters, and they want to make that one character, or they have a statue that is their Holy Grail, but they want to redo it, or they want to repaint it and take it to another level. So that's kind of where we're at. So what I'll do is I'll kind of swap the head so you can kind of see what she looks like on a full one. What it is the paint is still kind of tacky, not tacky, but whenever you get these heavy keys and you paint them, you always kind of, you might get some stuff stuck. But I did put some strong magnets in the head base display, but you can see how the comic accurate head looks pretty well too. Like I said, I really don't know what head I like more. I mean, I think I did a really good job with this head, and I also think I did a good job with the mass head one too to get that curve, but I think this one just worked well. Sometimes when you work on an item, it just flows and it works. Where other times you work on an item and it's just not working the way you want it to, but this mass just seemed to like just work. It just, I don't know, it wasn't even like one of those items where it's like, oh, okay, I did it, this isn't working, I had to break this off, or that's not working, I had to break this off, or I got to chop that. It just seemed to really flow. So, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. But that is Star Sapphire with an extra head display stand. Hopefully you guys like the way it came out. I had a lot of fun with it. Definitely a good, you know, item to work off. I mean, the Jean Grey is a really great statue, and this worked out perfect for her. And this is going to be one of his Holy Grails. I know he loves this character, and nobody really makes her. So he's definitely really excited to get her. And I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, he was great to work with. He was definitely open up to my ideas. Definitely kind of let me do my thing where he kind of still gave me feedback. And I also said, hey, you know, that's not going to work, or this might work better, or we should do this. And he was like, okay, I get it. Because, you know, with customs and, you know, making these items, sometimes things just don't work out. And some things do. And I guess one last thing too is, I guess the black paint, it is actually a pearlized blue with black. It's got a hint of that in there. So you might kind of see a little bit of blue catching on it, because we didn't want to just do flat black. But then I flattened it down too, so it kind of works out. And I guess the hair too, last thing is, the hair has an interference blue on it. I showed him an old video of my Wonder Woman statues that I painted where I put interference blue on it so it gives it that silky, like, you know, look to her. And I think it kind of pops a little bit more too and kind of makes it glow. But yeah, that is the Star Sapphire. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like it? Do you like how, you know, taking a statue to another level maybe gives you guys some ideas? Because like I said, the way that the hobby is going and the way I'm talking to people lately, these are things that might be happening more and more where people are like, hey, I really want this character. This companies are never going to make it, but I really like this statue. Can we convert it? And then we kind of take it to another level. So there you go. That is the Star Sapphire. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.